Venturing onward in the endless night,
where the brawn meets the brawn.
The story told in this storm of imagination mode.
With every stroke,
the vengeance unfold, these are my soul, soul.
where the brawn meets the brawn.
The story told in this storm
Hello there. How are you? Welcome to Minis-N-Muscles, the only place you need to be on a Friday, the place where the brawn meets the paintbrush. How are you? Ah, my chat is working. Hey, Elias. I was a bit worried then that I couldn't see anything on chat. So I'm glad you just messaged in. How are you, sir? You doing well? What's new with you? I haven't heard from you in a while, so come on, tell me what you've been up to, Elias. Well, anyway, welcome one, welcome all. If you are a first-time watcher, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, comment on the video, share it with your buddies, share it with your family, so we can all share this wonderful thing. Oh, we're getting thumbs up. I'm glad you're well, Elias. Have you been painting more models? Because your painting's getting a lot better, so I'm keen to see what else you're painting and what you're doing. But if you're first time to the show, what are we? Who am I? Well, I'm Steve. What I do is I talk about geek every week. So the world of Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, Pokemon, retro gaming, absolutely anything really. We talk about it here, all whilst we paint our lovely miniatures. So I bring onto the show every week a range of different miniatures, including like this one here, which is Rabute Gilliman, one of the Primarchs in Warhammer 40,000 for the Space Marines. And we paint miniatures, right? So that is what we do here. So yeah, that's what we do. Paint miniatures, talk geek, and we have a wonderful time. There's 3 parts of the show if you've not seen the show before. First part is our generalised conversation that happens every week. And this week it's about handheld consoles, and we'll get more into that later. Part 2 is about fitness, because we wouldn't be Minis-N-Muscles, the place where the brawn meets the brush, if we didn't talk about fitness, right? So this week we are going to talk about... Oh, crikey, I've forgotten what we're going to talk about. That's embarrassing. Oh, right. Body and soul is what we're going to talk about this week. A little bit of meditation to help you. In your fitness goals, that is. And then part 3 of the show is our hobby horror, where something goes terribly wrong in the life of hobby. So I will be talking about sort of the excitement around collecting. Shall we just say it like that? But we'll get to that in a bit. So what's been happening over the past week then? Well, past week I've been away with work again. Boo hiss. So I haven't done a lot of gaming really. I did one evening where I had enough energy to do some painting, so I continued to paint some Sister to Battle models that I've got. So I did a little bit of painting. I've not done any D&D. I've not played any tabletop role-playing games. Retro gaming I have done. So I have been playing a lot of retro gaming recently. So I've been doing that. I've been playing my Nintendo Entertainment System, the classic computer system from the 1980s, and I've been playing some games on that. My favourite game at the moment on that is Punch-Out. It's absolutely brilliant. If you've not seen it, not played it, it's just a boxing game, and it's really, really good. So I've been playing that the past week, and that is probably about it in terms of geeky stuff for me. What about you guys? So people in the chat, Elias, what have you been doing this past week? You've said you've been building. What have you been building, sir? What exactly have you been building? I would like to know. Drop it in the chat. If you are doing some painting along with me this evening, hopefully you've got some lovely fresh clean water and your wet palette is looking gloriously clean. If not, run away now and get your fresh water and get your wet palette ready so we can do a bit of painting, because this evening we are going to continue to paint this fella, Rabute Gilliman of the Ultramarines. We're going to continue to paint him. So last week we did a fair amount of the more of the detail elements and sort of patching up some of the mistakes as well and the overruns, things like that. We started to work on the backpack, so there is plenty left to do though. When I look around on this model, that it's just absolutely crammed with stuff. We did a load on the base the other week, so it's looking pretty good, but there are still it's surprising how much there is left to do on this guy. So if we get him done tonight, that'll be fantastic, but I'm not entirely sure whether we'll get him finished. Elias is saying a lot of Space Marines. Awesome. So you're painting loads of Space Marines this evening. That's good. Or you have been recently. So that's cool. What Space Marines are you collecting? Are you collecting Ultramarines like me? Or perhaps Black Templars? I've got some Black Templars. Or is it another chapter of the Space Marines? So yeah, we're going to continue to paint this guy and see how far we can get along with him. See if we can get him close to being finished. I mean, we could. I mean, he could be played as he is, but I do want to finish him off. So yeah, so we've got the head to do. So it's a little teeny tiny head. In fact, let's change camera and let's go for a top-down view. There we go. So there he is right there, headless, but it's not too bad. It's looking all right so far. I mean, we need to do the flames on the sword. There's some tiny little details around the legs. It's just small detail stuff, really. And then we've obviously got the head here, which needs to be done. So yeah, there's a lot to do, surprisingly. Even though I've done loads on this so far, there's still... I'm just looking at it. Every time I turn the model, I'm like, oh gosh, I've got like these little bits here and these pipes here and this little skull here, and you know, I turn it this way and I'm like, oh god, it needs that bit there and that bit there, and there is loads to do still. Disappointing kind of, because I thought I was further along than what I am, but nonetheless we shall persevere and we shall continue on our path to completion. So yeah, as I said, we worked on the gold trim, we worked on the sort of little details. I really like to get this guy done today, hopefully, but I'm not sure if we will or not. One thing I would say about this model, painting a excuse me, painting a Primarch is very fun. They're bigger than normal Space Marines. There's a load more detail. Getting my paintbrushes ready. There's a load more detail on them. So it does make it a little bit more of a fun project to paint. So if you're thinking about, you know, maybe you haven't painted a Space Marine before, or any Warhammer perhaps. If you're considering painting some Warhammer, definitely give a Primarch model a good consideration, because there's so much detail on this model and you will feel so accomplished once finished. I don't think you will regret choosing to paint a Primarch. There's a couple of them out. Apparently there's going to be a new Guilliman coming out. Well, so the rumour mill is saying anyway. So there's I've not long owned this model, so if a new Guilliman does come out, I'll be rather annoyed, because it means I'll have to paint another one. But as I say, there's plenty of things to paint on here, plenty of things to do. Currently what I'm doing is there's some sort of small silver bits here and there on the model that I just wanted to just get a quick layer of silver. Oh, I'm painting off screen. I do apologise. I'll shuffle myself this way so I'm a little bit more square on. Yeah, there are a few little bits here and there that are just silver little bits that I need to drop some paint on. And at this stage of model painting, it is about just continually rotating the model just to see where you need to catch up and what you need to be doing. Because it's not always obvious. And sometimes you need a little bit of a second pass on a look just to make sure you're getting everything correct. I am kind of going over the edge on this little pipe work here, but that's okay, because I'm going to go back and fix that with some black. So it's not to worry. But yeah, how are you guys anyway? What has been going on in your world? What have you been up to? Please do tell me. I would love to know. So if you've been doing something fun, if you've been doing something geeky, drop it in the chat and tell me. Oh, painting off screen again. Apologies. I'm not getting this very good today, am I? I'm not getting me angles right. Yeah. Today's chat is all about, or the main general chat that is about handheld gaming. Now, it starts with, starts way back in the 80s, and that's where we're going to start our conversation. And we can sort of integrate a little bit of modern, but I wanted to sort of focus on the Game Boy, actually. So the Nintendo Game Boy is where I want to kind of focus our attention in our general chat. So if you're into handheld gaming, or if you have some experience playing a Nintendo Game Boy, let me know, drop it in the chat, because that is what we're going to be talking about today. I've got plenty of talking points on it, so there'll be lots to chat about. So hopefully we'll have lots of participation from you guys. I'll hear all about your stories of your handheld gaming experiences and what you guys have been up to. Just redoing just another coat of silver on here. As I said before, sometimes when you paint a model, you'll put a layer on, and then you'll realise that actually you need to do another one because of XYZ reason. Perhaps you've got some of the base coat showing through, and then I've just realised here I'm just cutting a bit because I've realised I've not trimmed the edge of the plastic very well here, so I've actually got a bit of the sprue still on the sword here. So I'm just trying to be very careful. So if you're ever using a knife, please do be careful. So I just realised I've got a bit of the sprue left on there, so let's cut that off. There we go. Alrighty. So one thing, there was one colour. Yeah, that's right. These little bits and bobs on here. I've forgotten what they're called. But the bits where they get their purity seals. That's what they're called. The purity seals centre part I want to start painting. So let's get some pink horror over here. So for my purity seals, I use pink horror. You don't have to use a pink, but I think it's a nice little standout colour, which is cool. We're saying in chat, Optimus is back in chat, and he's saying, most certainly off topic, but Steve, wondering what you think about the state of UK armed forces and the nonsense with HMS Dragon. Oh, crikey. Great question, Optimus. The state of the UK armed forces. Wow, that's a big question. I don't think we've got enough time on this show to cover everything about that. But I'm really disappointed in how successive governments have treated the armed forces in a lot of different ways, how they've scaled it down over the years. Even when I was still serving between 2000 and 2015 for regulars, and then from 2015 to 2018 as a reservist, or 2019 as a reservist. Yeah, I'm really disappointed in how they've treated soldiers in a lot of different ways, but how they've degraded our armed forces over time to the point where it's almost non-existent. It's a real sad state of affairs, and this is not a slate on anyone that is serving still. I still love my brothers and sisters in the armed forces, but it's just how they've been let down massively. And we could talk about this for hours if I'm honest. It's not a sort of a passing comment that you can just answer in 2 seconds. On HMS Dragon, I assume you're referring to the fact that it's not long been deployed, and should it have gone out to Cyprus earlier? Yeah, absolutely. I think the government dilly-dallied and didn't respond accordingly. If you're going to be taken seriously on the world stage, you have to really up your game, and you have to respond to stuff like that. You can't allow, you can't be sitting still in that scenario. I don't care whether you agree or not with what other nations are doing, but as soon as your nation is involved and you have been bombed or attacked in some way, you have to respond. If you don't, the world will not take you seriously. And that's probably half the reason why, the likes of the US, China, Russia don't really take the UK seriously, because we don't respond to those kind of things. We don't react. We don't do anything. We allow everyone to sort of, we roll over essentially, unfortunately. And that's not the fault of the people in the armed forces. That is the fault of the heads of governments. So sad state of affairs, if you ask me. But that's my opinion. Evening, Adrian. How are you doing, sir? I hope you're well. I hope you're all good. Adrian saying politicians have been ruining the whole thing. Yeah, running it all down for years. Yeah, absolutely, Adrian. Yeah, as I mentioned. Yeah, completely agree. It's been running down, just to pour pointless money into other things that they can siphon the money out of, in my humble opinion. So, they take money out of one pot to then feed another pot, and that pot that they're feeding tends to be something of a scrupulous nature, where things don't materialise, where money just disappears, and politicians get richer, weirdly. So that's why I think that happens. Whether I'm right or not, that's another thing. But that's maybe we'll save that for another. Maybe we should do the after show, which is all about politics. Because today we're talking geeky stuff. Come on, let's stay positive and talk geek. So today we're going to talk about handheld gaming, and more specifically the Game Boy. Just because of my love for old retro games anyway, and gaming in general. And I've kind of reconnected a little bit with retro gaming recently. And I'm going to pull my Game Boys out, not on the show, but I will get my Game Boys out. I'm going to start playing with them. I've been playing my Nintendo a lot more recently. I bought a couple new games and been playing on that recently, which is real good fun. And I've just thought, I might get the old Game Boys out as well. So it kind of inspired me to talk about just handheld gaming in general, and how the Game Boy inspired that. So that's today's chat. So if you've got any input on that at all, feel free to bung it in the chat. I would love to hear what you think about handheld gaming and the Game Boy. So that will be super cool. Whilst we continue to paint our Reboot Gilliman. And if you've just joined us, drop it in the chat. Tell me what you've been up to over the past week. Tell me how you are. Tell me how you're feeling. What's going on in your world? What's new? What's not? What's hot? What's not? Tell me all the cool stuff. Does anyone remember that website, by the way? Hot or Not? When I said what's hot, what's not, just reminded me of that website. If those that don't know, maybe a bit too young, it was like before dating sites, actually. It was like you put your picture on there and you got rated. It was a rather strange concept. So you'd put your picture out for the world, and then you'd get, people then rating you out of 10. Yeah, very strange. But that was the website. I can see you fixed the burning brazier snapped last week. Yes, Adrian, I did. Look, it's back on there. Huzzah! We fixed it. Yeah, I couldn't leave it on there, so it's back on. So we couldn't have it busted forever, could we? Thank the Lord, we got it fixed. Adrian saying Tetris and that catchy theme tune. Oh my Lord, Adrian, we will come to Tetris, but yeah, absolutely. Like, it just had such a magical song. Absolutely magical, and I don't think anyone can deny that. If anyone's not played Tetris or heard the Tetris theme tune, please do go and get it on YouTube now. It is the most intoxicating theme tune, I think, for any video game ever. Bold statement, but I'm pretty darn sure that's the truth. But yes, it was super catchy. Oh, sorry, just out of camera again. Maybe I should get fined every time I go off camera with the model. In fact, no, where would I pay the money to? A lucky viewer every week gets a penny for every time I paint off camera. I'm waiting for someone to come back and go, a penny? Come on. Give us more money. I'd be poor by the end of it. By the end of one stream, I'd probably be poor, to be fair. But anyway, let's crack on with the main chat. So it's the origins of handheld gaming as a whole, especially sort of into the evolution of the Game Boy, which really changed handheld gaming altogether. So how did it really start, handheld gaming? Well, actually, and there will be some of us here that are online and old enough to remember, LCD games. So you had a liquid crystal display on in a little handheld controller that had one game preloaded onto it. And that one game was very, very simple. It was generally like a sort of platform style, or a left to right scrolling style. And you had sort of a few random enemies that would pop up, but it was always in the same place because it was LCD. They couldn't, just have enemies coming from anywhere. They had to come from a certain place, so they would spawn in the same place, etc. And you would have these little LCD games that would have one game on it, and that kind of really started handheld gaming, right? So that was late 70s to 80s. So they were sort of quite popular at the time, and Nintendo came out with a series called Game & Watch. And the Game & Watch was like it looked like the modern equivalent of like a Nintendo DS type thing, where you had a little you had your little screen, you had your sort of two buttons to press, and you had your D-pad, and that was about it. And these Game & Watches were super popular, and they really did kind of ignite the start of gaming, and that's where I think Nintendo sort of thought, oh well, this is a pretty good thing we're onto here. How do we expand on it? How do we make it bigger, better, bolder? So in the late 80s, out came what we will all know as the Game Boy. And the Game Boy was a battery powered, it could be powered by mains cable actually, but advertised as portable, so battery powered handheld gaming device that kind of lit up the gaming world. And I genuinely mean that when I say that it was probably the most influential handheld gaming device almost ever. Yeah, you've got some new ones now that have come out that are pretty sweet, pretty cool, but the Game Boy just revolutionised how everything was done. So, it was absolutely insane. But before that, before I get into the Game Boy, I just want to go back to the Game & Watch. So you had like loads of these individually licensed games by Nintendo, like Mario's Cement Factory or Donkey Kong and things like that, where you would have these very simplistic, like 10, 20 level games, and they were rock hard as well because you only got a set amount of lives and you'd die really easily. But it was all about pattern setting, really. So you'd understand the pattern of where the enemies spawned, you'd understand the pattern of where you needed to go, so it was very much a pattern-based game. So if you could recognise patterns, you were onto a winner. But they were super cool. There's loads of different ones. They took off massive in Japan as well, so are really popular in Japan. They were super popular here as well in the UK, the US. But Japan seemed to got a lot more titles than what we did, so I'm assuming that it was far more popular in Japan than here anyway, at least. And now if you look at those games as well, if anyone wants to Google Game & Watch, crikey, they are so expensive to buy one. A second hand, I kind of thought, I'll buy one as a nostalgia piece, but they're like 200 quid or maybe more for some of them. And I'm not paying that kind of cash for one. That's just mental. But they were super impressive for their time anyway. They were very, very good. But they were called Game & Watch as well, but they weren't a watch, if that makes sense, a watch that you put on your wrist. But they did develop Game & Watch watches later, but they came a little bit later. I I don't think they came. Did they come before the Game Boy or after the Game Boy? They might have come before the Game Boy, actually. But there was a lot of them. They got really popular after the Game Boy, because the Game Boy then brought everyone's attention to certain arcade titles like Double Dragon or Super Mario. So they got a lot more popular afterwards. Just doing a little bit of detail around the padding around the neck of Gilliman's suit there. My first handheld game was a 1982 Tony Grandstand Caveman game. Yes, Optimus, lovely. My first, it wasn't a handheld game actually. It was like a big box. It was made by Firefox Grandstand, I think. No, it was called the Firefox by Grandstand. Was it Firefox F7? Something like that, made by Grandstand. It was a box with a joystick and 2 buttons, and you flew this spaceship. And it was amazing. Silver and black, I remember it to this day. My first handheld was a little lime green handheld, and it was a motorbike race. And I remember being with my mum in the what's it called? I remember being with my mum in the shop, and it was like in a newsagent's, I want to say. And if you're not from the UK, newsagent's is like a little sort of convenience store. And I was in there with my mum, and I saw this small game, this little LED game, and I was like, "Oh my God, Mum, can you get this for me, please, please?" You know, begged her for it, and I think it was quite expensive for what it was back then. And she did, bless her, she did get it for me. I remember playing that, and it was blooming epic. A little motorbike racing game, but it was so hard. These games were ninja tough. I don't know if you remember Optimus, Adrian, how hard these games were when you went to play them. They were almost bloody impossible, I want to say. But being a kid as well, you don't often spot patterns. When I go back and play them now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really simple because you're doing this and this and this, you know, and you can generally blast through a few levels pretty quick. But back then as a kid, I really, really struggled with some of it. Found it very hard, but you know, that's the fun of gaming. My first, have posted the theme tune to your Discord, Adrian said. Ah, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So you're helping anyone that hasn't played Tetris before to now be able to enjoy the goodness of Tetris, courtesy of our every week watcher Adrian, who has posted all about posted the theme tune of Tetris into the chat on Discord. So if you don't know where our Discord is, if you look at the information or the bio for the YouTube page, you will see a link in there to the Discord. If it's not there and you can't find it, just drop a message in this chat and I shall find it for you. But it should be in the bio of the page. Yeah, what a legendary, absolute legendary soundtrack that is, as in Tetris. Blows my mind every time I listen to it. One of the best themes ever. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was rabbiting on about sort of the LCD handheld games. And like I said, they were super cool. Super tough, super cool, but very limited, right? One game on it, that's it. You didn't get multiple games. You had to buy individual an extra game, extra console. It was a console of type of sorts, to get your next game. So it was super inefficient in that sense. But you know, that was the start, really, of handheld computer games. But it was very cool nonetheless to be part of that. I look back at it now and I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool that I actually got to experience that. I actually think my sort of generation, so if you were born, you know, the latest of what, 85-ish, but if you were born before then, you got to experience so many different cool things like the technologies as you grew up. You know, from record players to, you know, crazy computer games. It was a pretty sweet era. Now you're sort of blessed with, you know, if you're born now, you are blessed with computer games as we know them, but you never got to experience, or haven't got to experience, all the different sort of innovations in technology. So I think you're missing out slightly on that, that's all. But yeah, back to my topic as I'm waffling. So those handheld LCD games were cheaply available for what they were. You know, they weren't super expensive, but I guess they weren't cheap, but they were all over the place. You could even get sort of knockoff ones from different places. Well, they're probably all made in Taiwan at the time. But they were pretty good. And along came a little company called Nintendo. And Nintendo decided that the handheld market needed to be capitalized, and they built the mother of all handheld computer consoles, computer gaming forms, the Game Boy. It was pretty darn insane. From day one, it was a massive seller. I can't remember the number of units it sold, but it absolutely stormed the markets with awesome titles like Mario Brothers. But it was black and white. A console, you know, roughly what, A5 size, a little bit smaller than A5 size paper. So what, 6 inches by 4 inches or something, roughly in size. Pretty heavy and hefty and thick, a couple of inches thick, maybe an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches thick, and it was powered by batteries. Yeah, if anyone remembers those things that we used to use to power everything, batteries. I mean, some things do still use them now, but crikey, not a lot uses them. Well, they do, but not in the format of standard cell batteries. They're rechargeable stuff now, aren't they, in a slimline battery pack. But yeah, you stuck in a couple of AA batteries into 4 AA batteries into the back of this Game Boy to turn it on. It did have a power adapter as well, so you could plug it in to the mains. But I'm not sure if they actually came. I can't remember, but I don't think they came with a power adapter. I think that might have been an extra. Black and white, but they were quality. It allowed you to all of a sudden play really high quality computer games absolutely anywhere. So like I said, playing your Marios, your Donkey Kongs, Metroid, things like that, anywhere you liked. And that was, well, first of all, it was unheard of, and second of all, having that kind of graphic power in your hands, it just felt completely out of this world. I don't know if anyone had a Game Boy on release. I didn't. I wasn't lucky enough to have one on release. So I sort of used my mates' Game Boys and things like that. Didn't have my own. But, oh crikey, that if you had a Game Boy, you were like the envy of the school playground or your buddies, you know. The graphics, looking back at it, weren't that great. Game Boy graphics weren't that great, but they didn't need to be. Because it was black and white, it kind of gave this sort of weird charm that it didn't need to be colour. And that was quite beautiful not being colour. I know that sounds really weird, but it just felt right. I guess where they reworked some of the titles like Mario Brothers and things like that, it just played really, really well. So when you played them, they don't feel like you're sort of missing out on colour as such, just because it was a cool format, just because the gameplay was well designed. Adrian said it's from YouTube. Oh, okay, nice. Thank you, dude. Thank you. Yeah, so Game Boy then sort of hung around and it started pushing out loads of titles, but competitors weren't far behind it. So you had people like Atari and Sega releasing their own handheld portable devices. So Sega had the Game Gear, Atari had the Lynx. Was it the Lynx? Yeah, Atari had the Lynx. So there was other variants about, but for some reason, this black and white handheld gaming platform was outselling and outperforming all of the others. And it lasted for years as well. So there wasn't much competition for a fair few years. And I can't remember when the Sega Game Gear and the Atari Lynx came up. It wasn't for a few years later, but Nintendo was still selling. They were still selling these blooming black and white Game Boys, and they were still selling well. And then all of a sudden they got a little shift to colour. So you got the colour Game Boy that came out, and then that it didn't have any more sort of real processing power. It just had colour. They changed the size of it slightly, so it was slightly smaller as well. So that kind of did well as a selling point, but it wasn't vastly different to the original. And it was still 8-bit, and it was still managing to outsell the 32-bit Atari Lynx, and the was it the Jaguar was 32-bit? I can't remember. I think the Atari was 32, and the Sega Game Gear was 16-bit, and it was still outselling those like by miles, which was sort of unprecedented and unthought of, really. And I guess it kind of came down to form factor was one possible decision maker why people liked it so much. Both the Atari and the Game Gear were sort of how do you say it, like lengthways items, whereas the Game Boy was sort of upways. Sorry, I should say this better. The Game Boy was a portrait style in the sense of its orientation, versus the Game Gear and the Lynx and that, which were landscape. So maybe that had something to do with it. The titles that were out on the Nintendo was sort of, I think, far outweighed the number of the Game Gear and the Atari, so maybe it was to do with the selection, but it just outperformed them all quite substantially. The fact that they could get away with just adding colour was absolutely nuts. And in the third sort of rendition of the Game Boy, all they did was shrink the size. So then they had the Game Boy Pocket, and I think the Pocket went back to black and white. So it was smaller, but it was black and white still. Or am I getting that mixed up with a colour Game Boy? Possibly. But my point is, they had 3 variants, and all very basic, and all still selling like absolute hotcakes. So super surprising to see how that sort of came along. And as Adrian mentioned, you had legendary games that came out on it. Tetris was one of them. Still played by millions of people today. Tetris. Or variants of Tetris that are not called Tetris anymore, but someone else has nicked the style of the play of the game. But Tetris was out and it dominated. The kind of format was that what Nintendo wanted to go for was a game that appealed to adults that haven't even played a computer game, right? So they wanted to hit a market that they hadn't conquered. If you want to, target kids, sell Mario. That absolutely makes sense. If you want to target adults, how do you get more adults in that wouldn't usually play your system? Give them something like Tetris, and it went down a storm. Millions and millions of units sold. Don't quote me on this, but possibly the highest selling game of all time, maybe, because of the amount of units that it sold then and still today. I bet it's up there. And the fact that other games have sort of copied the style of what Tetris is all about, it influenced loads. Super easy to play, can't get it wrong, simplistic puzzle game. wow, it was awesome. It was the game killer. So it killed all the competition off. Nobody else had access to Tetris either. So Nintendo had the only rights to it. So not only did they have this game, but nobody else could play it. So if you wanted Tetris, you had to get into Nintendo. So Sega did try to make their own version. Like a sort of puzzle type game. I can't remember what it was called actually. It was like a jewel type game. I can see it in my mind, but it was with jewels rather than blocks. But I can't remember what the name of it was called. But it was pretty good nonetheless, but it just wasn't as good as Tetris, and it didn't have that intoxifying damn theme tune. Come on, everyone can pretty much sing or hum the theme tune for Tetris. You know, impossible not to. Does anyone else remember playing Tetris? Any good memories of Tetris at all? Drop it in the chat if you did. I would love to hear all about your Tetris memories. There we go. The backpack on this looks like it's missing something. It just doesn't look... Or maybe it's the gold that I need to put on. It just looks like, when you're looking at it, it just looks too blue and silver. But if I put some gold up on the sort of vent parts there, maybe that will change how it looks, perhaps. I don't know, but it just looks like it's missing something. And I have missed the detailing on this one, so I have missed the trim. So maybe that is what it is. It's just that it's missing some trim. Tell you what though, them blooming... These little fire thingy-mabobbies, they really get in the sodding way, they do. Yeah, so does anyone else remember Tetris at all? Playing it? Seeing their mates play it? Looking at it? It was adapted from the arcade, I believe. Especially ported across to the Game Boy, it just... really took the Game Boy to the next level. But I just can't believe the success of the platform as well, and the fact they didn't have to do sod all just to keep it selling. Which I thought was quite cool. It just must mean it was a powerhouse of a bit of equipment. I'm going to get mine out this week, I think, and start playing it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start playing Tetris or I think I've got some wrestling games, and I think I've got some other bits on there. So I'm going to have to get that out and play. Look at this, right? I've got a PS5 and I've got a gaming PC. I'm very fortunate and very lucky, right? And I'm saying, oh no, I'll just get out the old Nintendo. I'll just get out the Game Boy, just play that. There's just something about retro gaming that you just can't beat. I watched a thing on YouTube actually about retro gaming and how it shapes your mind. So playing the old school games that, you know, where you only get 3 lives and you die and you go straight back to the start and all that sort of stuff, and how it shapes the creativity of your brain versus people who grow up playing Fortnite or other sort of modern titles. Because all they do is get endless rewards. They're always rewarded, and they get lots of lovely stuff all the time. Whereas old school gaming, you didn't get anything unless you won. It was pretty unforgiving. You think that looks better? Just with that little gold around the edge there. It also helps to be first, just like Apple and the touchscreen phone. Yeah, but they weren't first though. Well, I guess they were first in a in a proper handheld device. I mean, what did happen when the Game Boy was out is there was a load of companies, including one that was really famous called Tiger Electronics. Tiger Electronics then sort of upped the ante on the handheld LCD games to try and compete in some way, because they were a lot cheaper. So they were just hoping that people would buy lots of these handheld games rather than take the Game Boy. So it was quite interesting to see Tiger. Sorry, I'm just going to have to change my settings here because I can't see something on my screen which is disconcerting. But yeah, they... not that one. I don't want that. Yeah, Tiger released loads. So they released Mario, they released Double Dragon, all authorised by whatchamacallit, by Nintendo. But they were still this sort of single game under one hood type thing, and they were really cool. I had loads. I had Double Dragon one, I had a wrestling one. They were super cool. So I guess Game Boy were first in that sense, but there was others that were around that was trying to compete. They just could not knock them off the top. Even when better things came along, that's what impressed me. Even when better stuff came out, more technologically advanced things, Game Boy still outperformed the rest. I mean, the Game Gear, so the Sega's equivalent, right? That was awful because it used to chew through batteries quicker than anything. So if you had a Game Gear, I think it took 6 AA batteries, and it would plough through them and finish those 6 batteries in about an hour. You wouldn't get much more than an hour out of it. The Game Boy lasted forever. It felt like it lasted forever. It was a lot more efficient than what the Game Gear was, that's for sure. But not to say that that's the be-all and end-all, but it certainly did help. Maybe that was it. Just the fact that it was also bomb-proof. You could drop the Game Boy, and it didn't seem to break. It just seemed to sort of stay alive. Because the plastic case on it, I don't know if anyone's sort of seen one or owned one, but the plastic case on them is really thick. It's like well, certainly to nowadays standards, it's a real high quality plastic and proper kid proof. Whereas the Game Gear, the Sega version, that was not bad. Still good quality, but I don't think you could drop it like you could the Game Boy. It's just something about that console. Just something about it. What we're saying in the chat. Those Tamagotchi things resurrected the handheld games in the 90s. Yeah, they did. So Tamagotchis came out, where you sort of had LCD gaming in your palm again, and that sort of, yeah, like you say, that resurrected the LCD market, and everyone started then bringing stuff out. So when Tiger was sort of trying to compete with Game Boy, there were then other companies as well that sort of entered the LCD frame, and they were then selling multiple games on one box, which was again kind of unheard of. So you had like a 5-in-1 or a 3-in-1 game thing. So I don't know, you'd have this weird car game, and then you'd have a sort of platformer type game, and then you'd have something else all on one little sort of handheld console. And like Optimus said, you had Tamagotchis came out in the early 90s. That was where you looked after a little pet. So you would sit there and you would feed your pet and try and keep it alive. I mean, I didn't really like them, to be fair. That wasn't my bag, but they were super popular. I remember all the kids in school had them, or majority of kids in school all had these Tamagotchis. I didn't get a real one. I had a fake one, and I killed it. The animal inside it, that is. Not that there's a real animal. Don't report me to PETA. There's not a real animal in it. It's just a pretend electronic one, but I didn't keep mine alive. But I know plenty of people that loved their Tamagotchis. But again, Tamagotchis didn't take away from Game Boy. Game Boy was still selling in the mid-90s, so it was released in 88, I think, and it was still selling as a Game Boy Color, that is, in the mid-90s. In fact, let's just quickly Google that. I want to see when it stopped selling. Where's my phone? I don't know where my phone is. Right, let's see if I can find it on here. When did Game Boy stop selling? When did Color Game Boy stop selling? Let's see. But I swear it's mid to late 90s. It's got to be. So 2000. So from the late 80s to 2003, guys. That's insane. That's absolutely insane that the Game Boy lasted all that time. The only revision it got was colour. That's it. That's just ridiculous. Talk about market domination. And there were so many different things released then by that point. You know, I think Nintendo had even released the Game Boy Advanced, perhaps, or the Game Boy SP. So yeah, they released loads of different variants. The Game Boy Advance was 32-bit. That was a hell of a little gaming machine. That was quite crazy. But 2003, what a legacy, man. What an absolute legacy. If you look at them now, though, I tell you what, trying to buy a second-hand one, cool-wee, they're expensive if you want one that's boxed. Because I wanted one, when I bought mine, I wanted one that was boxed. But not a chance am I going to pay 200 odd quid for a Game Boy. That was kind of insane to me. What else are we saying? Not really Tetris for me, more Space Invaders and Asteroid. Yeah, but those two are also classics, right? Space Invaders and Asteroids. They're super classics too. I don't get me wrong, I don't think they outsold Tetris, but they still sold very, very well. So, you know, they're not to be sniffed at. Oh, this is a really awkward little spot. This is where this sort of emblem is on Gilliman's leg. I'm just trying to get in there, but it's a bit difficult. Oh, so we've got quite a few viewers on tonight, so I hope you're all well. If you are on, don't be scared to jump in on the chat and say hello. Don't keep me hanging. Don't, you know, just chat to me. Be like Optimus and Adrian, chat away. Give me a hard time, it's not a problem. Yeah, this little area just in here is actually quite hard to get to. I'm actually going to paint the centre of that white as well. There's a little raised bit right in the middle of it that I will probably put some metallic on, I think. Not Metallica, metallic on it. I mean, you could put some Metallica on instead of this music if you want. Might not be able to hear me very well though. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that little bit on his thigh is done. I just need to tidy the edge of that up because I've slightly overran a bit. But that's okay, I'll do that in a sec. Or Pac-Man table console in a pub. Yeah, Pac-Man was, well, that was bigger, that started earlier there, that was in the 70s, so Pac-Man was super big, and Asteroid actually, to be fair, and Space Invaders was 70s, late 70s games. So they did start earlier, and they were arcade based, so big arcade machines. But yeah, they were very cool as well. I would take any of those 4 games, they were pretty sweet. That's that bit done, I think. I'll have to redo some gold, but that's okay. Right, where are we on this model, guys? Oh, we've got a little bit of tidying to do on the front, actually. Just sort of tidying all the trim areas where I've just messed up and gone over and, you know, just probably been a little bit impatient on doing the trim. That's what happens when you when you're doing these little detailed areas. And it also is proof that you can go back on a model as well, so you don't have to worry too much about, always that is, I mean, you don't want to go purposely fast and cocking it up, but if you do make a boo-boo, it's okay. You have the opportunity on these models to go back and realign, readdress. So if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Don't panic, because you can go back and rectify. Yeah, so those of you who are new to the channel, make sure you have subscribed to the channel. Please, please, please. Drop a like in, drop a share, turn on your notifications, all that good jazz. Because I want you coming back. I want you coming back and talking to me about all these geeky things that I end up talking about. Today I'm talking about Game Boys and handheld gaming, and how the Game Boy sort of started the craze off, really. It's the OG of handheld gaming. And still pretty good even today. So if you found yourself on eBay and bought yourself a Nintendo Game Boy, you wouldn't be disappointed. Don't get me wrong. Don't be expecting, you know, modern day graphics. But if you were to go and buy yourself a Game Boy and give it a bash, you would find it fun, interesting, and you would find yourself hooked. I'm telling you now, I mean, there is a game for everyone, right? So not all games are going to suit you, but I guarantee you there is a game out there for you that you would love on the Game Boy. Whether it's the original Zelda, whether it is Mario, whether it is classics like your sort of Donkey Kong, Pac-Man type sketches. I guarantee, even if you like car racing, there's loads of cool car racing games on the Game Boy. There's WWE wrestling. There's so many cool titles. Micro Machines is one. I almost bought that today actually for the Game Boy. Micro Machines. That's a legendary game. So I do want that for my Game Boy. And I'm actually quite looking forward to taking it away with me. Taking it away. I do have a Nintendo Switch, but I'm kind of more interested in my Game Boy right now. So I'm going for a retro phase, guys, alright? I'm just reliving my youth again. Okay? Leave me be. Don't give me a hard time about it, yeah? Whilst we're painting miniatures. Whilst we tidy up all these little mistakes that I made whilst doing the trim. And it's still not perfect, but I'm not gonna panic and spend too long on rectifying mistakes. Just because we need to move on to the next bit, right? Can't stay on this forever. I think we've done a fairly good job. Like, when we look at this model, he does look pretty pimp, right? I mean, chuck it in the comments if you disagree, but I think he looks bloody cool. I think we've done a good job so far. Don't get me wrong, as always, you can always do better, I guess, but he does look pretty good. So far, so good. I reckon we could probably, he says, probably get away with moving on to the sword next. I think, if anyone disagrees, let me know. But I think we can probably get away with going on to the sword next. What do we reckon? Again, drop it in the chat. Oh, just check the chat whilst we're here. Any game sold better than E.T. for the Atari? Yeah, but some of them early games like that, they didn't sell. Well, they did sell, but they didn't sell amazingly. But they were just freaking awful games, right? Almost unplayable awful. because that was kind of the time when people were really experimenting and bringing games to life, right? And E.T. Adrian was one of those games. Unlucky for you. It sounds like you're still traumatised by it. Oh, we did have a load of viewers and now we've not got many. What's happened there? Unless sometimes this is a bit weird. When I look at my stats, it says we've got loads and then it disappears and then people come back. So I'm not sure what's going on. But we've had a massive drop-off, which is a bit rubbish. So hopefully people will come back. I hope they do. But keep on dropping stuff in the chat, guys, because that also helps the algorithm. So if you've got something to say about gaming, if you've got something to say about the Game Boy, or any other handheld console that we're talking about this evening, drop it in chat. Say hello. Because even that helps the algorithm. So more people will come to the channel if lots of people are talking. And it also stops me from going absolutely mental and feeling like I'm a lunatic, talking to myself all the time. That's not healthy. Come on. Come on, guys. Look after me too. Just painting this little helmet that's on the side here. Just putting a brown coat over it. Keep it simple. No real detail. Keep it brown. Keep it simple. There we go. Oh, I've just realised it's not a helmet, it's a blooming skull. Oh, dang it. No, it can't be because it's got no... I don't know. Well, it is a skull, but... gosh darn it. Okay, going to have to paint that the right colour, aren't we? Let's just put that on there. What about Gilliman's face? What do we do about this, guys? Well, first of all of this around here needs to be black. Can't be blue. Needs to be black. Oh. So anything with these little piddly heads. Sometimes it's quite easy when you're doing tiny little heads like this. Get some blue tack. I've got some right here, which I usually use. Stick it in like that, and there you go. You've got something then to hold, right? Rather than sort of holding thin air. So I'm just putting an undercoat of black. Oh, sorry, well, not an undercoat, but I'm putting black around the edge just because I don't want any of the blue to be around his neck. So, because he's got a load of wires and things like that around the back of his head. So, all the recesses in that are going to be dark, right? So, slap a load of black on there. Don't worry too much about being fancy with it. And then we can put a skin tone across him as well. Go, stick him down there, and we'll find a little skin tone for him. Oh, right. Let's have a look what we got. No, we don't want that. Let's try this one. So what else are we going to talk about? We talked about the design. Oh yeah, cartridge. Should have mentioned that earlier. So the Game Boy was a cartridge-based system. Basically a mini version of the NES cartridges. It looked very similar anyway. So cartridges were great because they were super durable and you couldn't bust them. That's what I liked about them. It's not like a CD that was in the, you know, on a PS5 or a PS2 or even a PS1. You know, cartridges were indestructible. You could literally throw them down the stairs and still pick it up and use it, which probably a lot of people did to their games because they were so infuriating. So people probably did throw them down the stairs. But it was super compact, so they weren't very big at all. They were really small and easy to put in your pocket. So even like if you were naughty and took a Game Boy or your Sega Mega Drive, Sega Game Gear or whatever into school, you could slip a couple of games in your pocket, which was pretty sweet. You know, it's not like a NES cartridge or a floppy disk for a PC or something. You could just throw a few of these in your pocket and completely get away with it, which was cool as heck. And then you got sort of auto bragging points with your mates because you were the cool kid that, oh, you brought your Game Boy into school? Oh wow, you're bad, man, for bringing your Game Boy into school. Now kids just have their phones and everything, right? They just have loads of phones in school. But a different generation indeed. So the original Game Boy, I think it's called the DMG-01, which was the first, the 80s one. It had sort of like a green hue to the screen. Although it was black and white, it had this sort of weird greenish kind of vibe to the screen, which was part of the backlit sort of thing, but also it was just the fact that the way the display worked. And it was kind of iconic in itself. I'm looking for a hair colour because Gilliman has like blondish hair and I don't really have a blonde colour, so I'm going to have to mix something up here. I'm going to have to probably mix a bit of this Dawn Yellow, which is really, really too pale, with a bit of brown or something like that. See what colour we can come up with. It had a crazy screen on it, which gave you that sort of yellowish kind of, greenish kind of tint, which was quite funny and amusing. It had some cool accessories that came with the Game Boy. So the Game Boy came with a variety of different things available for it, from things like just your basic carry case. And by the way, I say basic carry case. A carry case for a Game Boy back in the day was bloody huge. It was super massive. You got these massive plastic carry cases that would fit your Game Boy, your charger, your games, everything all inside. And this carry case was like this big. It was portable, but it was freaking huge. I don't know how they expected kids to carry this around to their mate's house or whatever. It was ridiculous. But nonetheless, that was kind of the vibe. It was still quite a novel thing to be able to carry your portable device around with you, with all of the extras, and there was loads more. So Game Boys even had a magnifier. So because the screen was tiny, you could buy as an optional extra a magnifier for your Game Boy that had a backlight on it, and that sort of improved your visibility of the screen, because it was so darn tiny. Again, if you've ever seen a Game Boy for real, it's only like a 2.5-inch screen or something. It's not very big at all. It's still cool, but it is tiny, so there ain't a lot of pixels on that screen, let me tell you. It kind of don't matter really, but you could get yourself a magnifier if you wanted one, if you were that desperate to see the screen bigger. But even TVs back then weren't big, so you know, having a portable device that was like that was, I guess, pretty insane. Just giving Gilliman some sort of blonde-ish hair. And he'll have a green laurel that will go around his head as well. Do that shortly. Oh, sorry, I'm painting completely out of view again. It'll become a conspiracy, right, that I paint out of view because I've got someone painting for me on the side or something. I don't, but it could be a conspiracy, hey? Could be a little theory. There we go, put it in there like that. We need like a sort of brightish kind of green. Let's see how this one comes out. There we go. Crikey, we're over halfway through the show. I didn't realise. Over halfway through the show, we need to do our muscle moment in a minute. Okay, so I'm liking this green. This green's a pretty cool green. To be fair, that's just what I want. Painting all the underside of this little laurel. Then once we've done this, we'll stop for our muscle moment because we are over halfway through the show already. Chatting away about Game Boys. There we go. Almost done. On the laurels, that is, anyway. Or the laurel. God, really difficult not to get the hair here. Well, I guess I should probably put on my geek glasses. But I'm trying my very best. There we go. Okay. Well, that's kind of done. Oh, we've run out of... I did mix a little colour for his hair there, and it's gone dry, and I've run out of it. Don't know if I can... No, try reactivate it with a bit of water. It's not going to have none of it. We're going to have to make another colour up, but that's fine. That's fine. Right, let's pause that. Let's stick this camera across to here. Let's move that out of the way. Didn't realise I still had that up. So, we are halfway through the show. Let's take the part 2 of our show. So if you're not used to the format, halfway through the show, roughly, we talk about fitness for 5 minutes because we wouldn't be the place where the brawn meets the brush if we didn't talk about fitness. Super important. So what do I want to talk about today on fitness? So clear mind equals healthy body. All right. So I was going to talk about 5 key points about meditation and how that links to fitness and well-being. So point 1, meditation is good because it reduces your stress. Now, by reducing your stress, it lowers your cortisol levels and that then aids recovery. So when you're doing really exhausting workouts in the gym or out running or whatever it is you do, okay, by lowering your stress levels, reducing that cortisol, you can then recover better. All right, so that's point 1. Point 2, meditation can improve your focus. Now, to meditate, it does require a lot of focus and a lot of practice. However, if you can become dedicated enough to be focusing on meditation to do it correctly, you will find that, excuse me, You will find that during other things that you're trying to do, and that could be a fitness related thing like run a marathon, for example, you can zone in, you can focus, and you can push hard on that one thing you're trying to achieve. So mental clarity leads to a better training session. Okay. Point 3. You can get better sleep. If you meditate and reduce your stress, you can actually sleep better. You can get off and rip them Zeds as far better if you meditate than if you don't. Okay, so meditation improves sleep quality, which ultimately helps aid building muscle and repairing muscle. Okay, that's a good point. Not 3, but point 4. Injury recovery. Calmer mind equals better body awareness and better form. So if you're calm when you're exercising, rather than rushing through it and going crazy, trying to get the reps in, if you're calm and you're thinking about what you're doing and you can actually do the exercises properly, you're not going to do a poor repetition of an exercise and put your back out, or you're not going to hammer through it as quickly as you want to, but not do the exercise properly. Being calm in the moment will help assist and reach training goals. And point 5, long-term consistency. So, as I pointed to and alluded to earlier, meditation takes a lot of practice. Practice and doing it regularly is consistency and discipline. Consistency and discipline are key to reach your fitness goals. If you don't have consistency, if you don't have discipline, you will never, ever, ever reach your consistency goals. So meditation is even good for that. I was saying in chat, you get more out of food after you've exercised as the body takes in fuel. Kind of not. That kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve there, Adrian. If you were, for example, overweight, for example, you might want to train first and then eat after, because your body will then convert the fat stores and rely on that as its fuel source rather than burn the fuel that's in your stomach right that moment that you've just eaten. But you might also be in the sense of, like you say, you might want to restore and replenish the body, so you eat straight after training to nourish the muscles as best you can. It depends what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, get what you mean, man. Get what you mean. Anyway, that was our muscle moment. The place where the brawn meets the brush. The place where we talk about 5 moments of fitness. So hopefully that was interesting to you. If you've got any questions on fitness at all, you feel free to drop in the chat. Feel free to comment on the video. Feel free to drop me an email at Minis-N-Muscles. That's just like it's written, not the and sign, but the N letter. Minis-N-Muscles at gmail.com, and then I will reply to you and try to help you out and do some good. Anyway, let's get back to mini painting, because we've got Gilliman's head on a spike. Well, not literally on a spike, it's on a bit of blue tack, but we want to do a little bit of painting here and get a little bit of more coverage on the skin tone. I've just noticed actually where the plastic doesn't join particularly well at a certain point on his head. It looks like he's got a hole in his head. I don't know if we'll get away with that once we get another layer of skin tone on it. It might sort of minimise how that looks. We shall see. There we go, got his chin. Okay, so skin's good. We've got these little cables out the back of his head. So we've got these sort of little silver type nodules that are sort of, I don't know, the connectors that go into his skin. So we'll paint those silver, and then we'll try and find some nice colours to paint the cables, right? Because cables have to be bright colours, otherwise what's the point in having cables? Obviously they don't have to be bright colours. That's just me taking the mickey, but it looks cooler when they're bright colours, right? So if you choose, well, that's what I've found anyway when I'm painting miniatures. If you've got a load of cables like I have here on this little head, painting them all sorts of random cool bright colours is actually quite nice. So I'm going to go with like this blue, this green, this red. I'm going to go for nice bright colours. Or I might actually swap the red for an orange. So we go for that. Well, it says red, but it's more of an orangey. So we've got those three. So if we start with these, see where we get, right? But bright colours for cables always looks cool because it's a tiny little thing. It doesn't have to be... It's not got a lot of surface area for anyone to see. So if you've just got literally like a little bit like this, and you can just ding a little bit of a bright colour on it, so straight away you can see that, right? Don't really have to make much more on it. Just there you go. We'll do one on the other side as well. Ding a little bit of paint on, and it's bright, it stands out, and regardless of how the model sits now, you'll probably see that, and it will look really cool. So we only need 2 of those done. Let's get some green in there. Green is my favourite colour, so I will probably try to find the longest cable, and it looks like it's actually this one here. Sort of runs up and round. Oh, there we go, round there, right round the back to like this sort of section here. There we go. Oh, it actually goes all the way around. Okay, alrighty. Actually runs underneath his chin. Okay, so, but you can see the gist of that one. It sort of runs around there. We'll tidy that up in a sec once that dries with a bit of black. Just to sort of neaten up the edges. And let's go for the blue. Let's bring that up, see what else we've got left. So we've got one more thicker cable that runs this way, so that's going to be blue. Oh, we've got one there as well. There we go. So, if you're doing cables, bright colours because they look cool. That is the only reason why we do stuff when we're painting, because it looks cool. That's it. We don't need any other rationale, rhyme or reason. We just paint it because it looks darn good. That's it. Okay. Let's get, I think we need some black just to tidy up the edge. It's just where bits like here I've just sort of gone a little bit too far over. That's probably it, really. Oh, it was there as well, yeah. Just realised a tiny little bit of green that I missed underneath his chin, so we need to get that done. What we're saying, you could take that head and stick it in a plastic case like the talking heads in Futurama. You could indeed. Right, I'm going to make a hash brown of this here because, and that means make a mess, because the cable actually runs right underneath his chin. So to get that area, I'm going to go over, I've gone over, if you see, I've gone over the black section. So it's quite okay to do that. You just realise you need to go back and correct it. So once it's dry, it doesn't take long for this paint to dry. You can just go back and then paint over and paint up to the area that you need with the black, right? and then it means your green cable is running underneath Gilliman's chin, nice and tight. And you can still see that, but you can also still see the black, and it looks like a cable rather than it being all over the place. Right, so we got that. We need his eyes next. So for eyes, it's a really simple process. I think we've covered this before, actually, on the show. I know we're supposed to be talking about computer games. We'll get back to that in a minute, but just for the moment, we're talking about doing some eyes. So I'm going to use Wraithbone. And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to paint over the section where the white of the eye would be, right? So I painted one section there, and I painted one section there. Don't worry, like I have, I've gone and hit the nose. Don't worry about it. All right, that's absolutely fine. So I am going to use my geek glasses for this because it's quite up close and I can't see it for crap. So I'm going to need to use some geek glasses here to get up nice and close. Make sure whatever black you're going to use, because we're going to go from, now we've used the white to get the whites of the eye, we're going to use black, okay? Make sure your black is mixed well, not so it's super runny, but just so it's light enough that by the slightest touch, it will run off your paintbrush nice and thin. Okay, so get back, look where you want the eye, and you're just going to paint a small line where you think his eyes should be, right? They're just two lines. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Right, there's two lines there you can see that I've painted. Alright, don't worry about it. That is absolutely fine. It's actually spot on. Because all we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to cover the eyes by painting the skin tone back on. So you then round the eyes off and make them the shape they need to be with the skin tone. We're actually going to have to do the eyebrows as well. Oh, that's too watery. So see where I've gone there on that eye? I've actually gone too far where the paint is too watery. So I've actually lost too much of the eye there. But hopefully you can see what I mean when I say you just get your paintbrush and you close the eye up with the skin tone. That is the way I do eyes. It's not the most perfect way, but it's pretty quick. It's pretty easy. Anyone can do it. Just have to redo that eye on the right because the paint was just a bit too watery and we lost the other side of the eye there. I might have recovered it just by putting white either side of the black line. So hopefully that will do. I am going to get a slightly different skin shade for the lips. So lips on a model, generally speaking, are going to be darker than the skin tone. So if you've got a couple of different skin tones, you can just come back and you can add a little bit of paint across the lips. Giving him a bit of a fat lip there, actually. Again, no, that's okay. You can come back and sort that out. So it's got slightly fat lips there, but it's all right. We can come back and sort that out. We can tidy that up. Again, just by taking the original skin tone and going over. The only other bit we need to do is his eyebrows. So I mixed a couple of colours earlier, and I need to remix them just to do it. Joel's in the house. How are you, Joel? How you keeping? Adrian's saying, or you use the helmet. Now, I really wanted to use the helmet, Adrian, and I've somewhere lost the helmet that Gilliman's head goes in. So I've lost that somewhere, which is annoying. Otherwise, I probably would have. Yeah, otherwise you're right. I would have probably just used the helmet because the helmet actually looks really cool, and I decided I liked it more than I did the actual head. But, you know, c'est la vie. Right. There's some yellow for his hair. How are you, Joel? Hope you're doing well, mate. Hope you're keeping okay in the world. Just going over the hair again, just because it was a bit. I wanted it a little bit lighter. Gilliman's going to have this sort of almost not bright blonde, but he's going to have blonde hair, right? So just trying to make him look a little bit more blonder. There you go. Okay. Trying to just tidy up that right eye just a little bit. Not bad though. Not bad. For a 2-second job, that's pretty good, right? You know, and ultimately, I'm not here to paint for days. I'm here to paint for ease and speed. And for, you know, a small head on a character like that, that's absolutely fine. We're not going to panic or worry too much about that. But we are going to get a bit of glue and stick his head in there, so his head doesn't fall out. So let's take our body and we're just going to stick a little bit of glue around the seating area where the head goes. There we are. Put the lid on. And then get our boy Gilliman and get his head in place. There we go. Slide him in. Oh. There we go. Alrighty. Oh, sorry, it's out of camera, but there he is. And you can see the cables, look, that are around the side of his head. You can see them from the top view as well. So if we look top down, you can see them, which is pretty cool. They're not really hard to paint. They're super easy to do. But that for a 5-minute job to paint a head on a mini, you know, to get his eyes done, to get his hair done, the lips, all the details, super easy, super quick, right? Well happy. So happy with that. That's turned out pretty darn good. Again, not perfect, but we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for, you know, fairly high quality, but with a bit of speed, just so that we can get the model finished. How are we doing for time? Oh, it's 20:36, so not too bad for time. So we've got not a lot of detail left, actually, which is nice to hear. Got a few little bits here and there. We've got that little bit there, that little sort of nubdual. We'll paint a little sort of brassy colour. We will get some shade, and we'll just drop that down the sort of chain that hangs down his front. So he has, a bit like the Battle Sisters do actually, they have this sort of, it's almost like prayer beads. And I always like to put nuln oil down it because it sort of sits in the recesses and makes it look like it should do. And I do this for my Battle Sisters, and I shall do this for Gilliman. There we go, and do the back as well. There we are. Nice. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're looking pretty good. Okay. What else is to do on this? Just the flames on the Emperor's sword. Yes! Yes, Adrian. Well, I have spotted a couple of little silver bits up here. So nothing major, but just little pipes that need a little bit of silver on them, just so they, again, just draw the eye slightly. But we are almost finished on this model, which is pretty cool. I was hoping we were going to finish today. So that means next week we can have like a little vote on what we want doing next. Okay. Righty. So we got some flames to do on this sword. So what do we want? We want flamey kind of colours. Yellows and oranges. Let's see if we can sort of blend them in. Let's put him there. We want some red as well. Right, okay, let's get this in order. So I want to kind of go that way-ish. Let's get rid of that. We don't want that one. Alrighty. So I'm just going to have to mix some of these in a palette just below me, just so I can get these colours wet enough to blend them together. So let's start with red. I'm just adding red into this tray. I'm just going for the tips on this one. Oh, we forgot to actually carry on my conversation about Game Boys. Oh, how sad. We'll crack on with that in a sec. Once I work out where I should be what I should be talking about. Do the tops of those. Let's get an orange in here. Another orange. So all we're doing now, sorry, I should really be talking whilst I'm doing this, is we're just taking a couple of various different sort of flame type colours, making them pretty watery, and trying then just to blend them together as you're taking up more and more of the model or the area where you're going to be painting, right? So you merge the colours into each other, which makes it look like flame. Let's do the same this side. And you can sort of, with the lighter colours, you can sort of spread them over little individual parts of the flame at the top if you want, or in the middle, just to make it look a bit different. And then with the yellow, and again, I'm doing this pretty fast, so I'm not really worrying too much about this. I'm not, you know, putting too much thought into it. I'm literally just going at it. Again, just getting the last colour of my sort of flame type blend, just putting it onto the end where I want it, and then, you know, sporadically putting it through the flame as well, just so it gets a little bit of variation. However, sorry, I was painting off camera. However, you see that, right? How long did that take me? 2 seconds, right? 2 seconds to get like a flame type look. It's not perfect, but for the speed that it took me to do that, I would much rather do that all day long than spend a gajillion hours getting a flame absolutely perfect, but it took me 10 million years. But that's not actually, and apologies for the quality of the camera there, but that's not actually that bad for a 2-minute wet blend. Got a pretty good contrast between the 3-4 colours that I've used, and it looks pretty good, right? Not bad at all for a 2-minute sword. Maybe I should do a video, the 2-minute sword. What we're saying in chat, Optimus saying, Steve, TV, movie or music crushes of the 80s or 90s? Oh, mine was Stevie Nicks, Kim Cattrall, Police Academy. Yeah, she was cool, and Kim Wilde. I can't remember the name of the lady that was the lead singer of the Bangles. I fancied her. She was pretty hot. In fact, she still even looks pretty good today. Who else? Yeah, I can't remember what her name was in Police Academy. Who did she play again? I can't remember, but she was like a tough ass-kicking chick in Police Academy, wasn't she? She was pretty cool, and she was dating Tackleberry. Is who she was dating in Police Academy. Yeah, she was pretty hot. But then there's some others as well. You know me, I'm terrible with remembering anything. But if the names come to me, I'll drop it in and I'll let you know. I can't bloody remember. Can't remember half the names of anybody. I can't even remember the name of myself half the time. Right, all I'm doing now is I'm going to, on the purity seals, I'm just dropping some Agrax Earthshade just across the ribbons of the purity seals, just to sort of make them less white and more sort of browny coloured. So remember, half the thing with painting as well is just trying stuff, right? You might not know whether it's going to come out okay. It's just a bit like that flame that I did there. I mean, I've done it before, but you don't know whether it's going to come out perfect. And given the speed I did it at, and it was done in 2 minutes, probably less than 2 minutes actually. It come out all right. You just got to sometimes give it a go and just hope for the best, see what it comes out like. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Do it again. If it's good, then hey, that's cool for me. I'm also going to do the sort of ribbon part across the leg as well, and I'll probably do a shoulder pad, because there's a little bit of detail actually on the shoulder pad that will benefit from having some of this shade on it, because there's some writing actually that will look quite cool if it's highlighted. What we're doing time, 10 minutes, okay, so we could possibly get this model done by the end of the show. That's what I'm racing for. I'm racing towards the end of the show to get the model done. Come on, we can do this. Right, there we go, that one. And then this one here, so this one that goes across the shoulders here. So there we go, you can see his name starting to appear, which is what we want. Just got to spread this out. So if I go too thick, I'll then capture and get the white of the Ultramarines U underneath, and I don't really want to do that. But I do want to wick a little bit of that away, because it's a little bit too heavy right now. So all I'm doing is wicking it away with the paintbrush and just sort of putting it onto my thumb. So you can see here I'm just putting it onto my thumb, just wicking it away gently, just so I've got enough to give me the definition on the letters, but not enough, not too much, sorry, that it's sort of soaking the entire area, which we don't want. So we just wanted that Guilliman shoulder pad like that to light up. And look at that. So we zoom in a bit. Boop, boop. There you go. You can see it a bit better there. And that's just from a light dosing of Agrax Earthshade, right? Perfect. There you go. And there's our 2-second sword done. Looks all right. So everything is looking pretty cool. I reckon we might have finished it. I mean, obviously there's still loads of stuff we could still do. But the majority of it, I think we're good. One thing I would like to do though on this model is there's two little, you see like on power swords, you always get these little sort of lines with a little thing on there. I always like to put like a bright colour on them because I just find it looks cool. So again, just chosen a bright blue just to go down here. And for that one too, but that one actually goes into the flame, so I'm going to allow that to stay under the flame rather than me paint it. We've got the same on this side. Again, as it goes into the flame. There we go. So another little detail just done. Nice and quick. Nothing too crazy. And what else? Do we need anything else on here, guys, do we think? Or do we think we're good? Ah, that's what we were going to do. So on that little bit, so there's this sort of white star that's on his leg, on his thigh. Inside of that, there is more sort of numeral type writing. So I just wanted to drop the earth shade across the entirety of the white there. Just so you can now see the V in the middle. See? Just dropping it in there looks cool. Adrian's saying, oh, Susanna Hoffs. That's right, Joel. Yeah, she was hot. Pamela Anderson. Yeah, she was like everyone's sort of dream. But I didn't fancy her. I fancied, was it Carmen Electra? that was the brunette in Baywatch? I can't remember, but it was a brunette in Baywatch I fancied more so. Debbie Harry, Susie Quattro. Adrian just likes Susie Quattro's leather pants. Or trousers, whatever you want to call them. For the power lines on the sword, I use Dark Angel's green. Yeah, so I use green as well. I like the bright colours though. So I like bright colours on those sort of aspects of the model. Just like on the cabling that goes around his head, right? I like the bright colours. That's my bag. It's my jam. But this guy's looking all right, actually. We could drop a little bit of Nuln Oil onto these patches of the seal, of the purity seal, right? Again, reason why, because if you see that now, I don't know if you can quite see it. Zoom in a bit. Can you see that there? You can now see a U. So rather than the centre of the purity seal be sort of invisible, you can now see a U in there. Some of them don't have it, but some of them do. So I'm just going to quickly check to see if any of them do or any of them don't. Looks like all the others don't, ironically. But there's something on these ones here. So what we got over here? Let's have a look. No, it's just an odd shape on those ones. Okay, nothing on those ones. That's fine. But we got that there. So, guys, I reckon our guy's finished. I reckon he's done. What do we think? Do we think he's done? Do we think he's sorted? Do we think he looks cool? Do we think he looks all right? What do we say? I'm pretty happy. Happy to put him on a table and use him in a game. Well, I don't know if I will. Yasmin Bleeth was the brunette. Yes, she was super hot. Super hot. There we go. What do we reckon? What are we feeling, guys, on this one? Drop it in the chat. Let me know. Are we feeling he is good, or does he need more love? What do we reckon for Gil? Our boy Gilly. I reckon he's pretty cool. Looks pretty good to me. I'm quite happy to retire him into the done section. Earlier it looked like the Gilliman was indented on the scroll. Oh yeah, he is. So on the shoulder there, Gilliman. Is that what you're talking about? So we've done that. I don't know what other scroll. Oh, on his foot maybe? On his shin? No, there's nothing on his shin. But that is just kind of how he is. But that's cool. That's alright. But he looks good there. I'm pretty happy with that. I am pretty happy. I think he looks alright. Not a bad finish. Again, nothing professional. But that's not what we're going for. We are going for speed and ease. And just for him to look cool on the table. And I think he does that. I'm happy with that effort. Just about right, I think. On all levels. Sometimes you can overdo models. And they can kind of look a bit weird where you've done just too much. But I think this guy looks cool. I'm happy with that. There we go, Gilly boy. Let's put him down there. Fantastic. We finished him, guys. Well happy. So what we've got to do next? Crikey. Well, I can tell you now, I've got more models to choose from than I care to think about. But what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to this camera and then talk quickly about my hobby horror, because it's the last 5 minutes of the show. So the part 3 of the show is the hobby horror, where we talk about something that's gone drastically wrong in my modelling endeavours. Or not modelling endeavours, but my geek endeavours. Is that a heavy bolter and a flamer? Yes, I can't remember what it's called. It's called like the Gauntlet of Ultramar or something like that. But yes, it is like a bolter flamer type combo. So yes, in hobby horror. So one evening this week, I decided that I was going to continue with my retro gaming obsession that I've got at the moment. I'm sort of in obsession with it. And I was like, oh, I need some more games. I need some more of this. And it was a little bit late. And I wasn't at home because I was away this week, right? So I was like, right, okay, great. I'll order this, I'll order that. And I went online looking for the games that I wanted to look for. And I ordered it. Yeah, great, got it. Boom, order, boom, order, boom. And I ordered like 4 games, okay? So treated myself, ordered 4 games. So, you know, quick browse, press buy and go. We know, come on guys, you are just like me, you're a man, you just press go and you go for it. Or maybe you're a lady actually and you might take a consideration, but blokes generally just go for it and hammer it. However, so I'd convinced myself that I got everything for a bargain, well happy, bought my items, super chuffed with it all. Lo and behold, I get back, the parcels have arrived for me, they're at home. I was like, brilliant, parcels are here. I collect them up, open the box, bring them up to my man cave, open the boxes, and I was like, great, game number 1, brilliant. Great, game number 2, brilliant. Great, game number 3. And I was like, hang about, this is the same as game number 1. I pick up game number 1. I've bought 2 of the same game. Alright, 2 of the same darn game! All because I was rushing, because I was so excited. I just thought, oh, sod it, I'll treat myself. And then I go and buy 2 of the same thing. Come on, people, drop it in the comments. Am I the only one that does that? Am I the only one that buys or, like, has a moment where you kind of switch off? Your brain kind of switches off and you're like, you're just going with the flow. And you end up double buying something you've already got. Has anyone done that? Or is it just me being stupid? Is it me? Maybe I was just tired. Maybe that's what it was. But has anyone else fallen any sort of eBay rabbit holes or Vinted rabbit holes or Craigslist rabbit holes or something when they're buying secondhand? Come on, please don't leave me on my own. Please someone tell me that I'm not the only one that has had this moment where they've double bought something. Come on. But anyway, that was the muscle moment. For next week, we're going to have to paint a new model. What I will do at the beginning of next week is I will bring out a load of models and we will choose some. Because we have finished our Reboot Gilliman. Oh, there you go. Bring him that way. So he is there. He's looking mighty fine in his golden blue armour. He's looking pretty cool. Oh, not if I drop him, he won't look cool. There you go. Trying to do a spin. You've done the same model-wise in your box of shame. Yeah, I have. I know. I'm awful at it, Adrian. I'm really bad. So yeah, so it's not good. But we finished our Gilliman today. We will next week choose. I'll bring a couple of models out of the box of shame. Don't worry, Adrian. We'll get through it. We'll bring some models out of the box of shame and we will get them painted. I will get a vote out. You guys can decide what model we paint next and we will do that next week. Aside from that, please, please, please make sure you like, make sure you subscribed, make sure you turn on notifications, like the video when it's posted, comment on the video, help the algorithm, tell your friends all about it, get more people down here so we can talk geek. All right, I know I kind of lost track a little bit and forgot to talk about Game Boy for, you know, half of the second half, but you know, I do get carried away, I do waffle sometimes, so you guys should be there to bring me back on track. At least you didn't drop. Yeah, at least I didn't drop him. But yeah, you guys are meant to be there in the comments to bring me back and pull me back into line when I sort of step out of the zone. But thank you for everybody for joining. Appreciate you watching me paint Reboot Gilliman. So he's now done. He's now finished. He can go on and be onto the battlefield in pride. I don't know if I'll use him though, because points wise he's not very points effective for my Ultramarines army, so we'll see if I use him. I have used him once, but I don't think I'll use him again. Just a showpiece. But thank you every single one of you. I really appreciate you being here with me. I appreciate you chatting, I appreciate you following along, I appreciate you talking about geek stuff with me, or TV movie 90s or 80s crushes, or whatever it is that we talk about. I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you to every single one of you. Have a wonderful week. If you want to catch up with me during the week or when the live stream's not happening, don't forget to go over to the Discord. So the Discord link is in the bio of the YouTube page. So open that up and you'll see the link to the Discord. Jump on into the Discord. Come and say hello. I would love to hear from you during the week. Drop your pictures of your models in there. Talk about computer games. Put some screenshots in there of what you're playing. I would love to hear from you all. But anyway, for now, stay safe, stay geeky. Do a little bit of fitness this weekend. Get out, even if it's for a walk, and enjoy yourself in the world of geekdom. For now, I say goodbye, my lovely people. Stay safe. I will speak to you all very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Fight, strength that makes you